to the Fiber Tales podcast. My name is Lærke and I'm coming to you from Odense. Well, not from Odense anymore, I'm coming to you from the southern part of Fyn. We have moved already for a couple of months, so it's just the old habit of saying Odense, and that is in Denmark, in case you don't know. If you're new to the podcast, very warm welcome. I noticed I got some new followers, or subscribers I should say, on YouTube, and this is a podcast about knitting and sometimes sewing and about my designing experience as a knitwear designer. I try to show as much as I can and talk about my designs, although it's getting more and more complicated because I'm working more and more on designs and I can't show that much. But I still have a lot to talk about. Today I have a little question and answer section in the end because I asked on Instagram if anyone had questions, and I got a few questions that I would like to answer in today's episode. So that's the plan. But first I have some normal knitting content and chatter about knitting. I will start off by talking about what I'm wearing. Today I'm wearing my skovmærker sweater, which is a design I came out with in the end of last winter or in the spring. I actually don't remember. It is knit in soft Donegal by Rosa Pomar, or it's from the Retrosaria shop in Lisbon. And it's a wonderful yarn. It's actually a little warm, so I'm feeling a bit flushed. But it's starting to be really cold outside and rainy. Today it's been raining all day and I just felt like wearing something nice and warm and snuggly. So I'm wearing this sweater, and as you can see it has these little popcorn and some other stitch patterns, some textured stitches, and then it has this little branch or leaf like twig design running all the way around, and this was my own invention and I'm really proud of how it turned out. And then again some more popcorn or bubbles and a little more texture. So it's a really simple yoke sweater. It's knit in the round and the texture makes it interesting. Unfortunately in this yarn, I love this yarn so much, but it doesn't show off the stitch pattern, the textured pattern so well. So if you want to see a few better examples, go on the Ravelry page. I will link everything down below. I'm Fiber Tales everywhere, but you can find the pattern and see some other projects from my testers and people who knit it already. So there it's a little more easy to see what's going on. But I'm really proud of this one. And I haven't been wearing it for a long time. I'm happy it still fits over the belly. I just rolled the sleeves up. The sleeves are a bit short. I actually wrote them a bit longer in the pattern. But anyway, I wear it like this most of the time. And yeah, that's what I'm wearing today. Excuse me. I'm having a lot of hiccups and I don't want to say burping because that sounds disgusting, but kind of like small burps because of the pregnancy, and it's really annoying. But I guess you can't do too much about that. So yeah, I finished one work in progress since the last time we spoke. I think I showed one sock, and it's this little pair of socks from my daughter, and I knit this in Urso Yarn Co leftovers that I have from my Birkin sweater that I talked a lot about in some of the other episodes. And let me show you from this side so I wanted to knit her some socks since she was a little jealous at the mitts that I showed in the last episode that I made for the baby coming. So I cast on these little stripy socks, and I just needed a little help to figure out how many stitches I should cast on. So I used the Pearl Soho pattern. I don't remember the name, but again I will link it in the description. So I cast on 44 stitches, and that's pretty much the only part of the pattern that I used, because it has a heel, flap and gusset, which is actually my preferred method of how you say, heels. I can actually show, I'm wearing another knitted item, and this here you can see, like, shouldn't be any hairs on it. You can see like the kind of heel that I normally make, and so I just wanted to try a short row heel, and I followed the tutorial by New Leaf Design. She has really nice tutorial on toe-up socks and German short row heel, and I tried it once for myself, but I didn't like it because it doesn't fit my foot that well. I felt it didn't, but I thought for my daughter, her feet are not totally developed, they're still quite soft, and so I thought I could get away with it. Yeah, so I just did that was easy. Short row heel, and the toes, I did some rounds of increases like every second row, and then I just did every row, and then I bound off. I kitchen stitched the toe, so it made this more rounded toe. I just tried them on her because that's the easiest way, and it's very easy when you make stripes like this. There are like 3 rows and then 1 stripe. It's very easy to make the socks identical, so that's a little trick if you always feel like it's annoying to get, I mean, identical is also about that they're the same length. So it's a little pair of socks. She already tried them on, she likes them very much. It's still, she takes them off really quickly because she wants to put them on, and then she really prefers to take off most her clothes if she can get away with it. Even though it's getting colder, she's still in a bit of a summer mode and likes to undress whenever she can get away with it. So I made these, and that was a really easy little project. And that's the only finished object. I actually cast on another pair of socks, which is this little tiny pair of socks. Aren't they adorable? And they just look so funny because of the ribbing. So the heel looks gigantic. I didn't weave in the end. So here you get a better idea of how it looks. It's a 2x3 rib, so I knit 2 and purl 1. I think it's a 36 stitch count for this one, and then I just thought it would be fun to make it was reversed stockinette on the rest. So the heel, the bottom of the foot and the toes is made in reverse stockinette, and I actually used the pattern. I got inspired to make this because I was watching Earth Tones Girls podcast. I can't say that. I have to really think. Earth Tones Girls podcast, and she was talking about these little Christmas socks that she was making like for a garland. But I thought, well, why not use this pattern? Oh, someone is coming and I have to cut off for a second. I will be back. I just have someone coming with a key for me. I have to get it. Okay, so I'm back. It was actually one of my bosses who came with a key. I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this and what it's all about, because I got some questions about what I do for a living, and it's not a secret, so I can talk about it. But yeah, I just will wait until the question and answer section. And he was very chatty, so I can't remember what exactly I was talking about. I was talking about this little sock, and yeah, I saw it on the podcast, Denise podcast. I will link it as always. And she was talking, it's a recipe from, like a recipe, it's a pattern, but it's more like a recipe from Tin Can Knits. Not Tin Can Knits, what am I saying? From Legacy Fiber Arts, I think, or their podcast. And it's in the Ravelry group, and there's just like a little one size sock pattern. And again, I did the recommended length. I think it's not a 3x1 ribbing, it's a 2x2 or some, or 1x1. And I did the heel as they described, just on the reverse, and then I just winged the rest. that's the way. With socks, I just sometimes need the little push, like how much cast on and the heel sometimes, but now I feel pretty comfortable with socks, so I don't need that much else. They look so wonky. They're also so tiny and cute. And I cast on the second sock, and I did that much, and it's just knitting I bring with me when I go somewhere, so I'm not in a hurry to get it done. It's also one of the leftovers from my Birkin sweater, so it's Urso Yarn Co, and yeah, lovely colors. It's a very nice vibrant spring green, which has a bit of a variegated, yeah, like little deeper greens and so on. So that's 2 little baby knits I've been working on. And while talking about the baby knits, I wanted to mention the Tiny Knits Cal that I'm hosting. And you can join the group on Ravelry. There's a nice chatter going on. People are sharing baby knits, and also in the F4 thread, because they're such small projects, so the F4 thread is already open and it's just being filled up with nice little socks and hats and cardigans and whatnot. And yeah, in the Ravelry group you can see the rules. They are very simple rules. I haven't put a finishing date yet, because I think it will be sometime in the spring perhaps. And you can also participate on Instagram by using the hashtag tinyknitscal. And that's it. It's just about sharing baby knits and talking about the different patterns and what works and what doesn't, and yarn and so on. I would like to talk more about yarn I would recommend and patterns I would recommend, like specific constructions, but it won't be in this episode, perhaps in some of the later episodes. I also have some books. Wait, my stomach is getting squished. I have some books, so I could show some patterns from the books and talk more about that. Let me know if you're interested in me doing a little segment about baby knits. I think it's a very interesting topic, because sometimes what you knit for your first born is, or for friends, it's not always the most practical knits. And yeah, I think there's a lot to talk about and to explore in that area. Okay, so I've been working on my shawl design, which I've shown you before and I talked about quite a lot. And I've only shown the part with the bubbles, which is it's actually similar to a few other designs, and I've been made aware of that on Instagram and other places. It looks a little bit like the shawl design by Pia from California. It is not the same, so I'm just keep going. You will see that it's not gonna look the same at all. It just shares the shape a little bit. It's a triangular shaped shawl and the bubbles, and that's it. And I don't think, yeah, I talked about that before. I'm not gonna go into if it's stealing or not. It's I don't think so. But last time I talked about this, and I talked about my problem with I'm knitting an applied border, and I ran out of yarn. I actually knew I was gonna run out of yarn, and I didn't really want to change the design. And then I blocked it to see, because it was a bit wonky looking, and it looked so nice after blocking, so I really wanted to continue. But the yarn has been discontinued. This is a Samite by Blacker Yarns, and it's a wool silk blend. Yeah, and it's been discontinued, and for some reason I just thought, well, if it has been discontinued, then we have some more hiccups. I thought if it has been discontinued, it wouldn't be I wouldn't be able to get it anywhere, which is quite stupid, because I don't know what I was thinking. So I got some comments about shops that still have this yarn available, and one of them is Rauwerk, and I looked on the website, and they have so many beautiful yarns and stuff. But I really want to knit for my stash. I am trying to be a little bit smart. I bought so much yarn at EYF, and I'm actually feeling quite good about the way I'm knitting it up. I I'm working on different projects and using the yarn. So, but actually I had, before knowing that it was available on Ruffle Vest's website, I had contacted another shop that someone made me aware of on Ravelry, and it's a German shop called, let me see, Wolle Willich. Yeah, and they sent it to me already, and it arrived today, and I got it. Ta-da! So here is the big skein. It was actually totally it's been unwinded. So yeah, you can see the label here. Samite silk blend. It's a 3-ply. It's in the shade Autumn Bowers, and it seems like it wasn't a problem finding the same dye lot, which was my big fear. Yeah, it's 20% silk, 80% pure new wool, and it's woolen spun, which is nice because a lot of silk is worsted spun to keep the shine, and this one doesn't have a lot of shine. Actually, the silk, what it mainly does is giving it this little bit of a crunchy feel. It's really soft, but it still has a bit of a crunchy feel to it, and the dye doesn't take the same to the silk, to the little silk knobs, as it does to the rest, so it gets this tweedy effect, which I really love. And you can see it's the same, so I'm really happy because it was my big fear. It seems so stupid. I really need so little. I have so little of the border left on one side, so it seems a bit stupid buying a whole 100 gram skein. I will have to find something else to do with this. Yeah, I'm the kind of person, I really hate wasting yarn or having a lot of leftovers from a project. But I couldn't find it for sale, like some I think 50 grams would have been plenty, but I just have to go with 100 grams. And it's quite also a pricey yarn, so it would have been nice if I could just have gotten the 50 grams, but that didn't work. So in case anybody, once I'm done, wants to buy 50 grams or whatever I've left, let me know, because I don't like to waste yarn. That's what I'm trying to say. And I don't think I don't know what else I would make with this yarn. It's not a yarn I would mix, I think would mix so well with other yarns because it's so specific. I will have to see. Maybe I just leave it in my stash, and I like to go stash diving now that my yarn stash is getting a bit bigger. I'm not planning a stash, but it just happens. So yeah, that was the Samite, and I'm really happy. Thank you for everyone who wrote me about places to get the yarn. It was really nice. So I can finish it. I've been knitting on it quite a lot, but I ran out of yarn a few days ago. So once I ran out of yarn, I went back to my Loopy project. My Plötulopi. I can show you a cake. Here it is. It is the most wonderful woolly. Oh, this one's not so pretty. Let me get a pretty one, just so you can see how they, when you get them, they look like this, all smooth and swirly-whirly. And you get them in these plates, and it's from Istex. It's the Plötulopi yarn. And last time I spoke about how I was taking the yarn from the outside and that you have to be careful not to pull the yarn. You still have to be careful, but someone wrote me that you could actually just open it up, like spread it out and pull from the center. So what they said is you put it down and then you just open it, and then you can start pulling from the center. In the beginning, it's you have to be a little bit careful, but once you get a bigger hole in the middle, it's quite easy to pull from the center. And this yarn is, I just have to be so careful when I take it. This yarn is an unspun yarn, which means it has no plies, it's a very loose yarn, and it's 100% Icelandic wool. It's a very beautiful yarn, and it smells very nice and sheepy. And it's funny when you're working with it and you get a bit hot, like you warm it up, it starts to smell more and more sheepy. it's funny because I rip back what I talked last time about ripping back, and the yarn really doesn't work well with ripping back, which makes it a pretty stupid yarn to do any kind of designing with. At least the way I design, I rip back a lot, or I make mistakes and I decide to do it differently. But I rip back twice and actually work the yarn. I think you can, if you're careful, rip back once and then use it again, but twice was not working. And then I found out I made a mistake in the chart for the design I'm planning to do, or I'm doing. And then instead of ripping back one more time, I simply decided, because the yarn wouldn't be worth anything for this, I just at the neckband I decided to the neckband was fine, so I just cut it off and unraveled at the neckband and cut off this chunk, and then I started over again. And I'm pretty far. I'm not gonna show too much, but I'm pretty much done with I have a little bit of the yoke left. And it's funny because I'm now let me just finish talking about the yarn. One thing I really like about the yarn, if I pick it up again, so I showed before that it's really easy to break because it's so unspun. But when you're knitting with it, I don't feel like there's a risk of it breaking. If you do like eyelets or something, or two together, knit two together, then sometimes it gets a bit thin, and that's actually the part I dislike the most, because if it gets too thin in the knitting, you can't just break it and start over, like split splicing it together. So what I've done in a few places, because when I was doing the whole ripping back and starting over, is you can just do a duplicate stitch very carefully, and then it will just blend together. It's not visible, and it's not a problem repairing or like fixing thinner spots. So it's easy to fix if you feel it gets too thin. And actually one of the things I really like about working with this yarn, it's not fragile, like you feel like breaking it, but you just automatically, or I automatically tension a little bit differently or work with it differently, and it feels like if you're holding like a little tiny bird, like a little chicken when they come out of the egg for the first time. You are so careful not to squish them, right? You want to be, so you hold them very carefully, and that's a bit how I feel about this yarn. I just hold it in a different way, and I work the stitches like more slowly, and I actually really enjoy it. It's just really relaxing to work with. So if you're tired of, if you feel like you're working with the same stuff or fingering weight yarn, or you just need a break from the regular knitting, I would really recommend giving this yarn a go, because it's just such a different experience, and at least for me it forces me to slow down and to enjoy every stitch a bit more. So I think that's a really great yarn for stress relief, or for enjoying knitting if you feel like you're a little bit falling out of love with knitting, or I don't know, like it's getting too tense. The other thing I would suggest, though, if you're working with this yarn, maybe have different projects so you don't get tired of it, because it is a specific way. But I find myself really enjoying the knitting, and I can't put it down, and it's a really fun yarn to knit with. So I would recommend this for anyone feeling like it's trying something different. And there are many beautiful patterns, or you can substitute it. It creates this very light fabric, which is very light and soft, but still rustic. It's not a soft yarn, but it is very light and breathable. And actually my daughter had a cardigan my mom knit in Plötulopi, and it was very nice. It felt so a little, not fragile, but it's so like thin and airy, but it was really strong, and she never broke it. And actually it was used by 2 of the grandchildren, so it was not made for my daughter, it was made for one of the other ones in the family, and my daughter used it as well. I really want to knit her one another one using Plötulopi, maybe some of the leftover, and for this winter. And I wanted to use one of the patterns in the book that I got earlier, how to make your own lopapesa, and I've been looking in it, and yeah, I think I will try to cast something on for her for the winter, but maybe not a cardigan, although they're practical, because I just want it to be a little more easy and fast to knit in the round. So that's all my works in progress. I'm really enjoying working with these. I have some other things, some designs that I'm just begun working on, and those they're very secret, so I can't talk about them. But I feel like I have a good selection of things to work on. I just missed working on the shawl because I really want to finish it, but now I can go back to working on that. I have a good selection of different yarns, and I think for me that's one of the best it's one of the best ways to have whips with different types of yarn and different thicknesses, and just so you don't get too annoyed with doing the same always. And one thing I forgot to mention, when I was working on my shawl, just before I ran out of yarn, I was working with the Knit Pro needles. These are 3.5mm needles. I had these for a long time. It's one of the first ones I bought when I started to get a little more interested in not using only my mom's old needles or my grandma's old needles. And I wanted to get some better needles, and these were the ones they had in the shop. And I broke it. And I actually got a lot of comments from people saying it happened to them too. It broke just down here at the where the metal part is, so it's like I'm not gonna try to glue it back together. I think it's gonna be too weak, because there will be some pressure on this part. I haven't had any issues with them breaking before. Actually, this particular pair I didn't like so much because just the joint here, when I go with my nail, it kind of catches the thread, so they were not the best, but they had a nice more tapered tip, so I like that for knitting. Yeah, what happened is the work was in the sofa, and I just put my hand down like on the needle, shifting myself, so it was pretty much my own mistake. And I kind of was aware when I was doing it, which was even more stupid, and I could just hear the pop sound, and they were like, so I can't complain. I don't think it's Knit Pro's fault, but it seems like they're not that strong in the joint here, so it happened to other people. I won't be buying more Knit Pro. It's not my favorite. As I said, the joints are not so smooth. Like many times there's this little jog, or I don't know how to say it. So yeah, I won't be buying more Knit Pro, and that made me think about the needles that I really like using, which are my looka needles. As you can see, a few of them are out of in use or somewhere else, I hope. I found this in the in the dirty clothes bin, laundry bin, and then a pair of the needles were in the clothes, so my daughter had taken this and put it in the laundry bin and taken some of them out, and I really hope they're not lost in the laundry. I checked, but I cannot find them, so we will see if they will be. We'll see how they wash, if that's what ends up happening. She's very quick to pick up things and put them in different places, which means I shouldn't leave my knitting and my stuff where she can reach it, but she's 3 years old and she can reach pretty much everywhere now, so there's not much I can do, I think. What I wanted to say is I'm really happy with the looka needles. I used them since last November, and they are great. I really love. They're so smooth, and I enjoy them so much. Perhaps I would have liked to have the longer set. I don't know. I don't mind they're smaller, but I noticed that I hold the needle a little bit different because they kind of go into my hand instead of resting. So if I hold this one, they can kind of rest on the palm, whereas one of these, it's a lot shorter, as you can see, because this is the short set. They also have longer ones, so they end up disappearing more into my hand. But really, this means I can still use them for sleeves as well as and other stuff, and maybe one day I will save up to have the long set as well. Maybe. I love them. I mentioned that when I was knitting on this one, the paint came off on the black paint down here on one of the needle set, and I wrote them and they sent me a new set of needles, just the size that was ruined, or that the paint came off on. And I haven't had any issues with the new one I got, so I don't know, maybe it was this yarn. I still think this yarn was to blame, but I don't know. I haven't experienced this problem with any of my other projects, so I hope they will last for a very long time. But if not, the customer service is great, so I wouldn't be scared to buy them. I would recommend them. Oh, and I have one more thing which I started working on today. And it was just like, I feel like knitting on something else. I don't know, I was just saying I'm really happy with everything, but I just felt like casting something on. And I posted a little picture of this on Instagram and it looked crazy. Now it looks a bit more like something. I don't know what happened, but I felt like making Christmas ornaments. I'm a little early this year because normally I'm really late with everything, but for some reason I just thought, in this house that we moved into, it has beautiful windows and I would love to hang something in all the windows. So I started making a star. I don't know if you can see, because it's a really funny construction. First you knit the star shape and then you pick up the stitches again. So you knit from out in, that's why it looks so funny. And then you pick up the stitches from the cast on edge. And then now I'm supposed to do the back, so it's gonna look the same and it's gonna be a nice little star shape. It's a free pattern on Ravelry and it's called Stjerne in Swedish, so I'm not gonna try too hard to say it in Swedish, but I will put the name in the description. It's by, did I write it down? Karolina Eggerdal. So go give that a look. It looks really nice and it's a fun little project to knit. I just knit this in my lunch break. And I don't know, it seems so weird and it doesn't seem logical what's gonna happen, but I think it's gonna be nice. I'm knitting it up in some old yarn that I have left from my grandmother, I think, which I think is some kind of, it's a plant fiber. It's probably linen. Yeah, but it has a nice rustic feel to it, and the color, I think it's a nice off-white color, but not too creamy. So for Christmas stars it would look nice. So I'm just trying it out, just to do something else. Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you just feel like doing something different. And I think this year I will try to make some more Christmas ornaments way before Christmas, so I'm not gonna put too much pressure on myself in the end. So that's what I'm planning. Okay, now I'm done with all the knitting content. It finally was a bit. And I wanted to ask some of the I'm not gonna ask the questions. You asked the questions on Instagram and I wanted to answer some of them. All of them. I will see how it goes. So I have the questions in my bullet journal, which I use for everything. I love the bullet journal. Mine is a Rhodia, by the way, and it's my favorite. If you ever want to bullet journal, you can see it's a really soft and squishy cover, which is hard, and the pages are this kind of little bit creamy, and they're very thick, so writing doesn't go through and it's dotted. So yeah, I recommend the Rhodia bullet journal if you're into bullet journaling, and it has the pocket in the back and all that jazz, and it's a beautiful bullet journal. yes, so I wrote down the questions, and my first question that I got is about what gets me super inspired about the designing process. And I think mainly, at least at the moment, I feel inspired about things I would like to wear. So I just imagine stuff I would like to wear, or like I imagine a cardigan with a simple cardigan, but with some kind of interest, like my cardigan that's being tested at the moment. It was actually, I just wanted a simple v-neck cardigan, but with something, but not too much. It should. I always think about something I would like to wear. If I wouldn't like to wear it, then it's too much, at least for me. Maybe I will change that later on. Maybe I'll start designing also with other people in mind. But at the moment, I'm designing for someone like me, and I guess I guess my taste. I imagine that I have a good enough taste to that other people will like it too. That's mainly it. And I like to play with different techniques. So on my retour, which is I talked about last time, I have the brioche, and I just thought it was so fun to work with this rustic yarn and what brioche could do with the rustic yarn. And with this one, I just woke up. I always get my ideas when I'm going to sleep, so I switch off the light, I'm lying in the dark, and then I start having all kind of ideas. And sometimes I have to get up and do a sketch. And with this one, that was the case. I was in Lisbon, and I just felt really inspired by this kind of textured yoke, and I really wanted to have a branch, like a, yeah, running along. And then I went hunting for yarn, and if you ever go to Lisbon, go to the Retrosaria shop owned by Rosa Pomar. She has beautiful yarn. Actually, this year my boyfriend is going to Lisbon again. He has a conference every year, and I don't think I'm gonna be able to go because it's in November and I would be really big. I'm due in January, and my daughter, I would have to bring her because it's a week. I don't want her to be babysat for a whole week. So I don't think I will be able to go, because taking care of her, being alone with her in a different city during the week would probably be too much, I think. And I don't know if I can fly so close to the birth. I don't think I'm gonna go. That's what I'm saying. But it's, I love Lisbon. I thought it was such a beautiful city, very inspiring. And so traveling too is one of my inspirations. And I love watching podcasts, for example, and Instagram, and it can be small things that inspires me, or like a technique or something, and generally I will put it into my library of ideas, and then they just pop up in some way when I switch off the light, which is always the best time, but that's generally what happens. So it's a good moment for me, I guess, because I have no distractions. My brain starts to imagine all kind of things. And I also start feeling more inspired to do baby knits again. I guess with the little one coming, it's a boy, it's a different stuff I can do, and yeah, I feel quite inspired to do some baby knits, to design some baby knits perhaps. I just felt for a long time, especially for girls, that there are a lot of patterns, especially if you live in Scandinavian country. There are so many Norwegian, Danish, probably Swedish knitwear designers for children, especially girly stuff. And Instagram, for me, Instagram is full of that. So I didn't really feel like I could come up with something new. I felt, it wasn't that. It sometimes can be a little overwhelming if you follow a lot of other designers and stuff. So I don't know, but I started to feel more inspired to making stuff for boys. So I'm playing around with some ideas, which won't happen anytime soon, I don't think so. But that said, I actually have a few designs for children, but I never published them. One of the designs I'm thinking about writing down and making perhaps a little free pattern, because it's very simple and there are a lot of similar patterns like this. It's baby bonnet. I made this twice. So this is the second one, and actually it's really nice because I made it in alpaca and it grew so much that you could use it for a couple of years. It's just a very simple, it gets this little elf kind of tip when you wear it. It doesn't look like much when it's, let me see if I can fit it. So it gets this little elfy tip on top, and then you, yeah, it's not for my size, but yeah, I thought maybe I would write it down because it's just an easy little knit, and I liked it. It has seed stitch, which is always very beautiful, and if you use an alpaca you can probably use it for a couple of years. And this is the back. So this is one of the things I just never got around to write it down. It was before I started designing, it was before I started writing down patterns, and the whole grading thing just got me really nervous, which is the case for the second thing I'm gonna show. By the way, I got a question about if I will ever make patterns for children. That's what I'm talking about. I don't know if I said that. So I made this little thing for my daughter, which is, of course, it's not looking the best because it's been stored for quite some time. It's a little vest with a ruffled hem, like a peplum kind of hem, and I made this at the time when there was so many things coming out with ruffles, so I also didn't really, I felt it was so unoriginal to make another ruffled pattern, but I'm still thinking about if I should just write it down, make it available. It has eyelets along, like yeah, eyelets on the side, so the edging is made with little eyelets, and also on the bottom. And this one is knit in one of the early skeins of Gregoria fibers, sock yarn. Isn't it beautiful? So many colors, such a beautiful speckling when she was doing a lot of these yarns. And I'm actually thinking if I should reclaim this because I'm not having another girl, and it was always, she almost didn't use it because I didn't have enough yarn, so it was made a bit short and stuff. I think maybe I will make socks out of this or something else, but I also feel a little sad ripping it back. And I have knit this a couple of times. So this little vest, I made it also in a yarn. This is the same as I used for the mittens, so it's Inglegarn merino, but it's like a more rustic merino, and this has been worn a bit, but you can see there's a bit of pilling, but not that much. And actually I think it's very nice in this yarn, and you can see the detail on the hem very nicely. I'm really thinking I should write this up. I think it would be lovely, and I would probably make her another one for this winter because it's a very nice thing to just yeah, put on if it's a little more chilly. And here is the last one, and this one is made in a sommerwool from Pickles. It's a Norwegian yarn company, and it's a little bit like a thick, thin yarn. Like it has this, how do you call it, flamme, I think. Yeah, and one thing I didn't like here is the sleeve opening was a little bit too big, but I changed that for the grey one. So you see, I've already made this 3 times, and it's a really nice useful pattern. So I don't know, if you're into baby knits and you would like this pattern, let me know. Again, I just didn't feel it was so original, but it has some nice details with the little eyelets on the edge and stuff, which I think is my, at least for this, is my own idea. It makes it a bit different, but it was just so many ruffled girly garments that I just got too much. I think I was a little, the knitting world was a bit saturated with ruffles. So yeah, I would probably do more more designs for children in the future, I think. Then I got 2 questions about how do you care for knitted garments and store them, and how do you wash your wool garments, what kind of detergent. And actually I don't do anything. I just bought a wool detergent from the shop, which is a without perfume, like a very mild allergy friendly, all of this. We are very into that in Denmark. They have a lot of brands that are without anything almost, and yeah, I just use that when I'm washing my knit. But I would like to find something maybe with a natural scent or something. It would be nice to have something a little more luxurious to wash your knits in. But for children and stuff, I actually prefer it to be without perfume, and then you can still smell the woolly smell underneath. But I wouldn't mind buying some more interesting wool soap. So yeah, I pretty much just wash it in cold water or lukewarm water, and then I put it in a towel and I walk on top of it. I normally don't roll it, depending on the size, but I normally just walk on top of it. And then I just lie it flat to dry. I don't always block it. Depends what it is, but if it's a shawl, of course, it's better to block it. If I can dry it outside, that's what I prefer to do. And yeah, it's just simple taking care of it in a very simple way. And actually, it's funny because when I grew up and my mom was knitting quite a lot, she never blocked anything. I never seen her block anything. But on the other hand, she didn't make shawls or lace work. It was mainly color work, or yeah, like garments, sweaters, and so on. And I just didn't know about blocking until I discovered the whole knitting community online. She never blocked anything. She rarely washed things when she finished. Normally, and I asked her about it, and she's like, you shouldn't wash your knitwear too often, then you wash out all the lanolin. And I guess because she used very rustic yarns, it was not part of it. And when not me, but my brother and sister that are older, when they were young, they were in cloth diapers, and she used the wool soakers or covers, and those were knit with yarn my grandmother spun from my parents' sheep, and it had lanolin in it. And when lanolin mixes with pea, it actually creates soap. So it's quite practical, and it's water resistant. So they are self-cleansing and water resistant if they have the lanolin in for the babies when they use cloth diapers. So again, it wasn't practical. You shouldn't wash it too much, then you would wash out the lanolin. So there's not a lot of washing woolly items going on. And I remember more than once she finished something and she wanted to flatten it, that she would ask me to sit on it, because her idea was if you sit on it, for example in the couch at night, then the steam from the body would like the moisture coming out of you would do a little bit of a blocking. And sometimes she would also iron it with a cloth on top, like a wet cloth. But I don't think I've ever seen her wash and block something like that. So it wasn't really, I didn't know about it. I do it now because I see the purpose, and I realize that it has a big difference when you block something. But also because if you're writing a design, you want to give the measurements from the washed and blocked. But that's it. I didn't know about blocking, so for me it's a fairly new thing. Yes, and for storage, not much. I just treat my knitted garments like clothes, so I store them with my clothes. But I got these when I was in Lisbon as well, and these are they smell so lovely. They are cedar wood sticks, and I just leave them with my knitwear, so to protect them from moth. And they are, I love them. They are from Muji, the Japanese shop that sells all kind of supplies and stuff. And I heard someone who did talk about it was Sister Mountain, and maybe it was Hannah Lisa or somebody else bought those baskets that are very beautiful and lined with plastic, so you can store your knitwear in it. I really want to buy that, but I don't have a Muji anywhere nearby, and I don't think they sell to Denmark, so I have to have it shipped to another country, or ask my boyfriend to bring them home from Lisbon, because there's a big shop in Lisbon. But I recommend these. They're just perfect. Look, smells so nice. Yes. And then I got some questions about about what I do for a living and what my partner does. I got 2 questions, one about me mainly and one about what we both do. And to start out, I can talk about him because he's been the one with the more constant work, and he works in biotechnology, and he is researching, and right now he's working and he's writing doing a PhD at the same time, so like a industrial PhD, so he's quite busy. And we met when we were both studying, and I am by profession I studied Spanish language and culture, so I have a master's degree in Spanish language and culture and Italian. And I've been working as a high school teacher for some years, like on off. I haven't got a steady job. I had only like substitute. So it's normal that you have a 1-year substitute teacher, at least in the high school. So I've been working for a couple of years like that. And recently it's been really hard to get another one. I guess there are a lot of Spanish teachers, or I don't know why. It's been really hard to get another one. And I was starting to feel a little depressed about the whole job situation and getting a job that was more stable and feeling a bit more secure about the income, because although I would love to be a knitwear designer, it's not something I can live from and probably won't be able to in the future either. But I have this dream to work maybe with knitwear design and with the teaching at the same time, because I like teaching and I like languages, and so I hope I can somehow mix those two, also because the teaching is a more outgoing kind of job, like extroverted kind of job where I talk to people and I'm out, but it's only for a couple of hours, and I love the mix between the more quiet knitting creative workflow and the teaching. So I hope I can do some kind of mix, but right now I just started working as a evening school teacher. That's what we call it in Denmark. It's teaching but for adults generally, and it's you teach normally in the evening or in the afternoon, but it can also be in the day, and it's more like a free for people who are retired, or it's a kind of public I would say public education. So especially if people in the old days, people wouldn't get such a long education, and if they wanted to learn another language or some skills, they could learn it in the evening school. So I'm teaching Spanish now in the evening school, and I am also working with knitwear, and I started working for the app called Making Things. So that's really fun, and it's been really exciting, and it's such a great team of wonderful knitters, and I really love that work. So I have those 3 things going on at the moment, and they will go on until I have the baby, and then I will take a break from everything. So yeah, let me see if I can do another question. I got a question. I think I will save a few questions for another time, but I got a question about knitting in public, and if I do that and how I started. And I knit in public. I knit on the train, on the bus, and in the classroom if I can get away with it. Of course, you always have to kind of have a feeling for if it's appropriate, but I have always done that, I think. I mean, always, but as long as I've been a more serious knitter, I've been knitting in public. I remember I used to work on a museum in Copenhagen as a student job, and I would sit and knit because it was quiet. I just had to be in the shop and sell tickets, and these old ladies would always come by and, "Oh, you're a young girl knitting, what are you working on?" And they really liked seeing someone younger knitting. So it's a very positive experience for me, knitting in public. I never had any bad comments or weird stares or anything. And I knit when I travel, and so I would definitely recommend knitting in public. It's a lot of fun. And with that, I think I'm gonna stop, because I already talked for an hour, and actually have to go for the teaching job that I that the bus came with the keys, so I teach in 2 different cities with 2 different buses, and then yeah, today it's my first day teaching in this the closest city in Svendborg, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. It's an introduction to what Spanish language and culture is about and what I'm gonna teach, and it's gonna be easy. I've done the introduction a couple of times now, so I'm not too nervous and worried, and I think I can do a 2-hour class. It's almost 2 hours and without any issues. The only question is if I can find the school where I'm supposed to teach. Yeah, so that's it. I think I will answer as I said, I got a few more questions, and just to keep this not too long, I will answer them in maybe another episode, and maybe I will ask if you have more questions, so I can just add a few more questions to that. That was all for today. It was very lovely chatting with you while it's been raining all the time. I'm sitting under this slanted window in the roof, and I can just hear the rain pouring. I don't know how much you can hear, so I hope it's not too noisy, but it's just very cozy, and I really like this. If I can stay home, it's really nice. But I have to go bike in a moment, and I'm gonna be all wet, so I don't know if I will enjoy it that much after. Yeah, I will talk to you soon. Bye!